This morning, tropical storm Elsa has formed, and this is one of the first storms that is going to be bringing a major threat this year to the Caribbean and the United States. And we're going to be looking at that today. Last night, I did say that I was predicting Elsa to form by tomorrow, and it has, making this the earliest fifth named storm on record, meaning that we are currently beating 2020, and this is, at this point, the most active hurricane season on record if it were to end right now, with Elsa having formed about 6 days earlier than Edward in 2020. So this is definitely not a good sign for this year, and this could be another very active season to say the least. But we're going to be talking about Elsa and a potential tropical wave behind Elsa, which could also be posing a threat to the Caribbean and the United States. First of all, here's Elsa, 40 mile per hour. Has been staying at 40 mile per hour since about 2 a.m. last night, so not a lot of strengthening has occurred. But it is currently getting its organization act together, and at that point, it is expected to be around 60 mile per hour, making landfall in the Leeward Islands, and then surprisingly staying at 60 mile per hour all the way to that Florida approach or landfall. And we're going to talk about why they're not expecting it to strengthen, but why it will actually strengthen. But we'll talk about that as we look at the cone in just a moment. Right now, wind field not too big, just extending a couple 100 miles to the north of Elsa. And as it's moved, we do have tropical storm warnings in effect for some of those mostly southern islands. This is the cone of uncertainty, and as you can see, bringing a lot of places here. We have all these watches and warnings in effect for the Lesser and Leeward Islands here. As the storm approaches the area, it is expected to intensify, and by 2 p.m. Friday, so by tomorrow afternoon, it is expected to be a 60 mile per hour tropical storm. Now, where this really gets interesting, or really, where it could become pretty bad here, is where you see this approach in the Haiti area, where the storm is expected to make landfall in Haiti and potentially Dominican Republic, then moving through Cuba and potentially again heading towards Florida, where a lot of models now are showing something generally like this. Now, keep in mind with the cone means the center of the storm could be anywhere from that very edge to that very western edge, and that goes for the entire cone. So, for example, here they're saying the storm could be down there or over Dominican Republic and Haiti. So that is definitely something to keep in mind, as we could see the storm go up the Florida East Coast, but we could see the storm go up near Louisiana, which at this point is unlikely, but you can see what I'm talking about with the cone. Now, it is expected to be 60 mile per hour right here, and then is not expected to be stronger than 60 mile per hour for the entirety of the rest of this cone. And the main reason what it looks like to be the main reason for that is really they're uncertain on how it will strengthen and progress. So what I'm thinking is that once it does end up being in the Caribbean by 2 p.m. Friday here, they're going to start putting, the potentially for an H in the cone, for a hurricane, for 70, 75, etc. We're strengthening, because right now they don't want to overestimate the storm. They don't want to call for a hurricane if we won't have one. So that's why they're staying at about 60 mile per hour, which is neutral between a tropical storm and a hurricane for the entire way through, because it is very uncertain. And when we look at the intensity models, you can see they're all over the place with this system. So this is the chances of tropical storm force winds at the moment. And as you can see, we have a 60 to 70% for, again, those two islands right now in the Leeward Islands. And then we have a 30 to 40% here in Haiti in this area. And then we have a 20 to 30% going all the way into southern Florida, moving up into the Florida area. So right now, again, looks like the path will be going something like this. It looks to be what's likely at the moment. And really right now we have a little bit of like three potential tracks. The first one being the most westerly path, the second one being kind of the center one, and the third one being a more easterly track. And again, this does remind me a little bit of Irma, where Irma came a little bit more to the north, came right here through the north here, but was originally expected to go up the east coast, then up the middle of Florida, and then end up going up the west coast. there is a little bit of similar situation, not strength wise, but a bit of track wise for the Florida area. Something that is sure of is Cuba and Haiti. At least Cuba and Jamaica are likely to get hit by the system at this point. This is the satellite imagery for pretty much the entire Atlantic, and we can see here this is 97L looking extremely healthy, looking very good. This is the remnants of 95L here, really dissipating right here. And then this is another tropical wave, which is likely to be marked soon, as it looks very organized. And another tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa, as well as this area here, try to blow up something, probably a trough, nothing expected to develop there. But it is lots of tropical waves coming through with a very surprisingly pretty good condition for development in the endowment region for this time of the year. So this is more satellite imagery here, and as you can see, it's very healthy looking system. We've got some very good outflow in the entirety, low pressure center being around here, or here at this point here. And it is very symmetrical, lots of outflow happening again with that low pressure system. Now we do have some drier sometimes kind of penetrating, but you got some nice inflow right here, a lot of outflow on those bottom here, lots of outflow, and again that low pressure center being right there. We have seen some dry air at some point trying to come a little bit, especially on that northern side, northeasterly side, but it really hasn't stopped the storm to maintain itself. Now, right here, this is the spaghetti models at the moment here. And as you can see, right now, in exact agreement that in the next 48 hours, it will be right here. It's really an agreement on where this will be in the next 48 hours. Where it does start to disagree here is once we get to that Dominican Republic. So, first of all, some models taking it right here, really off the East Coast through Cuba, right? Let me drop this here a little bit. Some models here taking it on the east coast of Florida, and then some models taking it west of Florida. So with this here, the National Hurricane Center, as you can see, the National Hurricane Center is that red line, kind of went stab in the middle with this. And at this point, it could shift slightly eastward, slightly westward. But if we were to really make a cone, like a pretty good cone at this point, you can really see that it would be quite large here if we were to take all the models together. But at this point, it's likely either way to cross Florida at some point. So Florida, Cuba, Haiti, and the Leeward Islands are all in the track. Now, as you can see here, those are those models here, which are all over the place. Every model keeps it as a tropical storm and then kind of strengthens, and then it's really all over the place. So we're not going to really look at it that much. Lots of models bring it to hurricane status. Lots of models, one or two models, category 2. And then after that, it really goes all over the place. So we're not going to look at that too much. Now, we're going to be looking really quickly at that wind shear, which we've been talking about, how it could really affect the storm, that wind shear forecast. And at this point here, the wind shear, like I predicted yesterday, is continuing to decrease here at this area. Right here, we have the wind shear really starting to decrease again. I was talking about that yesterday. Wind shear is also decreasing over Cuba, and that is really going to be allowing the storm to have a nice path to strengthen as it does move through the Leeward Islands and then up over Cuba. And really, it is going to be staying in this little path where we have little to no wind shear or some neutral to favorable wind shear here. Over Cuba, next to Haiti, this entire area, we have this nice little hallway where we don't have a lot of wind shear. And even most of the main dominant region has little to no wind shear for that tropical wave right behind it, which is really going to be allowing some intensification with these systems. And on top of that here, we're still talking about that dry air. Again, this is what I was talking about, a little bit of dry air here next to that center here. This is that other tropical wave looking very healthy, but all that dry air is really staying to the north. And as you can see, we have this little patch of dry air, but that is continuing to diminish. Yesterday it was taking most of the Caribbean. Now that has mostly gone out. And by the time Elsa gets there, it is likely to be mostly gone. And if any, it, and if any, Elsa will be passing right north of it anyways. So really, it wouldn't be such an effect at this point here. So that's all I have for this video. We are going to be looking really quickly at the GFS model, which gives us a good indication of what we could be seeing with this system here. And as you can see, the GFS model has a strengthening uh, all the way under Haiti and Dominican Republic to up to 970 millibars. Then weakens a little bit before making a 973 landfall millibar in Cuba, and then goes up a little bit west of the west coast and make a panhandle landfall before moving on onto the east coast. Really quickly here now, look at the European model, which takes pretty much the completely opposite. You can see here European model going up the east coast on the other hand. And so what we have with this here, the GFS model, just to give you a perspective, is going basically like this, and then the European model is basically going like this. So this is very interesting because we have quite a bit of a difference with this, as you can see here. And then moving to the CMC model, you can see that the CMC model takes a similar approach to actually kind of, this isn't good either, really, as it goes through Florida, through Cuba. So another could be another pretty bad storm with this system here. It is a lot weaker, though significantly weaker than the GFS, staying at around 1,000 millibars. But really, we're looking for the path of the storm. So a lot of these storms taking it over Cuba and over Florida. So I'll have a second update on this tomorrow, and I will continue to track this very closely as warnings and watches continue to be issued for the Caribbean. Probably we'll soon see some warnings and watches for Hispaniola, and then Cuba, and then eventually Florida, and probably eventually somewhere on the United States East Coast.